Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a brand new video from the Game Theaters about how he's solving one of Pokemon's oldest debates. Now I wonder which one it is. Pikachu's level? Nah, he already did that before. Ash's AIDS? Nah, he already did that before as well. Well, let's catch on and see what it is.
Pokemon sizes make absolutely zero sense. The fearsome Charizard, yeah, it stands at a measly 5 foot 7 inches, has a couple inches shorter than me. The formidable Lucario, he's just 3 foot 11. It's not even tall enough to get on most Disney rides. And Furret, you know, the Pokemon that's based on a ferret, is supposedly 6 feet long. Not sure I want that thing running up and down my pant leg. Anyway, I think you get the point. The sizes listed in the Pokedex are all over the place, but there's one Pokemon that takes the insanity and turns it up to 11. The float whale Pokemon Wailord. For 2 decades, this guy is
isn't that thing listed as being like 40 foot 11 or something?
Sparked fan rage, so much so that it's even spilled into the realm of a full-on academic paper. And all of it stems from one simple question: is Wailord lighter than air? Seems like a weird thing to be asking about your 47-foot-long whale, right? Wrong. Once you look at the rest of the numbers, you see how this has become one of the most controversial topics in all the Pokeverse. So today we're gonna be coming up with a definitive answer. Has the internet hit rock bottom, or is everyone else, including this Pokemon, full of hot air?
Well, hey, you never know.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where today we're going back to our roots, applying real-world research to fictional worlds. Break out the Pixel Rulers class, because today we're overanalyzing the disturbing science of Pokemon. And no, I'm not talking about how a tiny Skitty and a giant Wailord are meant to breed. Not touching that one with a 10-foot Alolan Executor. At least, not yet.
True.
Maybe one day. Nope, today I'm talking about the fact that Wailord is light. Like, stupid.
Hold on, Matt, you seriously aren't thinking of doing that, are you? Because it's actually really easy. They're just in the same egg group. How they actually breed? Well, even in game it's unknown, and even in the anime it's unknown. We have our guess, we have our assumptions, but we have almost no actual idea. Because, you know, we don't want to question it.
Stupidly light. As I mentioned in the cold open, Wailord's Pokedex entries confused fans since it was first introduced in Gen 3. You see, Wailord's weight is listed at 877.4 pounds, or about 398 kilograms. That's no doubt heavy, one of the heaviest Pokemon in the entire series, but it is comically light when you compare it to your typical whale. Blue whales, the thing that Wailord is based on, usually weighs somewhere between 290 and 330,000 pounds. So between 130 and 150,000 kilos. Practically 350 times the weight of your standard Wailord. So these guys are heavy, but not too heavy, you know? However, where things get controversial is when you factor in Wailord's other measurements. Wailord's quote-unquote height is listed at 47 feet, or 14.5 meters. He's massively big for not a lot of weight, prompting many fans online to speculate that Wailord may in fact be the lightest Pokemon in all the games relative to his size. Some have even gone so far as to say that Wailord is so light, he's literally lighter than air. The argument's been so heated, in fact, that it eventually spawned a real research paper from a real university in the UK. And their conclusion? Yep, Wailord is, in fact, lighter than air. Strap a string on that guy, you got yourself a big old whale balloon. Reddit, though, they weren't buying it, because, of course, they weren't. It's Reddit. This prompted a massive post arguing the exact opposite, that no, Wailord is not lighter than air. So today, loyal theorists, we're gonna be putting an end to this seismic debate. We're crunching the numbers ourselves to see who was right, who was wrong, and who was super nerdy. It was all of us. All of us were super nerdy.
Yeah,
will Wailord be sailing the 7 seas or floating amongst
we're all super nerd Miguels.
the clouds like a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Morty time.
Leave your theories in the comments below.
You know, I've always liked this.
I'll pick my favorites
in the next episode of Morty.
So, how does one go about proving whether a fictitious whale is able to float through the air? Well, it all comes down to a little scientific principle called density. Density is the measure of how much mass something has per unit of volume. If we have ourselves 2 cubes of equal volume, one made of lead and the other made of wood, the cube of lead would weigh more and thus be more dense. If I then drop that cube of lead into a fluid that's less dense than it, say water, the cube will sink to the bottom. If I drop the cube of wood into the water, meanwhile, it would float since wood is less dense than water. It's all pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I mean, it would float for a bit, but then eventually it soaks in the water and then it sinks.
stuff. It's also
think.
pretty darn easy to calculate. All you need to do is divide the mass by the volume and bam, you've got yourself the density. Classic equation, D equals M over V, DMV. One place where dreams go to die. So let's just take ourselves an easy example here to get warmed up. Voltorb. Voltorb is a nice round sphere, so figuring out its volume should be quick. According to the Pokedex,
Definitely.
Voltorb has a height of 0.5 meters or 1 foot 8 inches. Its radius is half that, so 0.25 meters. And the formula for the volume of a sphere is V equals
Okay.
4/3 pi r cubed. So plugging in our values, you get a volume of 0.065 cubic meters. Now, all you need to do to figure out
Not
Voltorb's
bad.
density is take that listed mass of 10.4 kilograms and divide it by the volume that we just got to get a density of 160 kilograms per cubic meter. Comparing that to the density of air, which is 1.293 kilograms per cubic meter, we can see that Voltorb is definitely not floating away on the breeze. But the density
Not
of
at all.
water, it's actually much higher, 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter. So Voltorb would actually
Oh.
float on the water, despite him being a giant metal ball, which means in
And
real life,
electric
you'd probably
type.
be able to teach your Voltorb how to use surf. That being said, this is all pretty easy math, right? Here's the problem with Wailord, though. Unlike Voltorb, who's a perfectly shaped sphere, Wailord is a blimp-shaped whale, and finding his volume is not as easy of a plug-and-chug solution. So let's just take a
He's
look at how
right.
both sides of this Poke Puzzle tried to solve the problem. First, there's this paper written by William Farmer, a student at the University of Leicester who wrote an undergraduate research paper in the school's Journal of
Whoa, wait, this only came out like 5 years ago? Whoa. I thought this would have been older, like at least maybe 10, but no, only 5? Damn. Wasn't expecting
Interdisciplinary
that.
science topics. I gotta say, love the fact that this debate's been going on for so long that the kids who used to argue about it on the playground are now old enough to write their own published research papers about it. Truly,
Yeah.
William Farmer, you are a man after my own heart. If you're looking for a job, feel free to apply for theorist script writer. Anyway, he calculated
Oh.
Wailord
Ooh,
In
wait, that would have
Albion,
been good.
no matter where-
Hold on, folks, be right back. And we're back.
size using pixel measurements in a classic theorist move, and he used
Ah,
a cylinder
classic.
to estimate Wailord's base shape, claiming that the overestimates here, these empty parts where the cylinder is bigger than the body, those would help account for the parts that stick out like his tail and his fins. The volume of a cylinder amounts to pi r squared h, so pi times the radius of the cylinder
Yum.
multiplied by the cylinder's height. So with a Wailord cylinder height of 14.5 meters and a radius of 2.855 meters, he figured out that Wailord's volume would be around 370 cubic meters, making the density 1.08 kilograms per cubic meter, which is lighter than air at 1.293. So,
Just
case closed,
barely.
right? No. You see, despite this coming from an academic journal, the paper makes a lot of assumptions about Wailord's shape and volume, and this got Reddit eager for
Yeah.
a more precise solution.
I mean, it's not a cylinder. Oh, he's not flat, he's plump. So you would need something more of like a sausage shape. Is that even a real thing? A sausage? Never mind.
This post comes from the
Keep
R
going
Pokemon
on.
subreddit by user Petscott who also used pixel measurements,
Petscott.
but this time refined Wailord's estimated shape. Instead of just reducing him down to a simple cylinder, they instead decided to add a hemisphere to each end of the shape. That way they didn't need to explain away as much empty space. They also
Yeah, there you go,
recognized
see?
that pixel measurements tend to be slightly inconsistent across different games, and so they tried to correct for that as well. This led their estimate for Wailord's radius to be smaller, 2.2 meters as opposed to 2.8. Their cylinder length then was 8 meters, leaving about 2.1 meters on each end for the tail and the head. In total, this refined equation where they added up the volume of the cylinder and two hemispheres gave them a significantly smaller volume, only 166.24 cubic meters, less than half what the academic paper had proposed.
Yeah,
Divide
that is
Wailord's
less.
mass of 398
Damn.
kilos by 166, and you get 2.39 kilograms per cubic meter, which is nearly double the density of air and a vastly different conclusion than the academic paper. With numbers like
Oh,
that,
boy.
your float whale Pokemon here, he ain't floating anywhere. So, which
Nope.
is right? Well, off the bat, the Reddit approach seems to be the more accurate method. While both options are assuming certain parts of Wailord's shape, the Reddit one is taking precautions by doing multiple calculations
pill
to account
shape.
for the
There you go.
nuances of both his shape and the differences
Man, I really could have just said pill shape. Why did I say sausage? Oh my god, I'm sorry.
and pixel measurements
there we go.
across games. I gotta say it, my friends, I am on Team Reddit for this one. But you guys know I'm not gonna just leave it there. These calculations,
Oh,
they're
of course
not
not.
perfect. Between its little grooves, its crevices, and the giant fins and tail, there is no perfect shape to truly describe what a Wailord is. It's not a cylinder shape, it's not an ellipsoid shape, it's just a Wailord shape. This is where our two
I mean, technically, if you were to cut off the fins and tail, he would just be a pill. Then you could almost solve everything else by being kind of like a rectangular prism in a way. Okay, so, I wonder why no one thought of that before. Well, hey, there you go.
density debaters get into trouble. But what also complicates things is that the scale of Wailord has never been consistent. Since Wailord is so much larger than just about every other Pokemon in the game, it's always shrunken down so it can fit within the confines of the system, the battlefield, or the screen. And with Wailord being so large, any amount of estimation error gets exaggerated to become a whale-sized problem. Without factoring in that sort of inconsistency, who knows? You might conclude something insane, like saying Wario is 10 feet tall or some ridiculous like that. As a result, my dearly beloved pixel measurements, they might not be the best tool to give us the most accurate numbers in this instance. So, how do we get the most accurate results and settle this debate once and for all? Well, in the wise words of Patrick Star,
We have technology.
since the release of both the
Ah,
Reddit
come on,
post
don't
and
cut
the
it.
research paper, Wailord has made the switch to the Nintendo Switch with Pokemon Sword and Shield. In the Isle of Armor DLC, we finally get to see Wailord in all his blubbery glory, just as Arceus intended, which means that we finally have access to
He
a
is
full 3D
massive.
model of this Pokemon. No more pixel measurements based on weirdly angled sprites required. This means that we can take this new 100% accurate 3D model and import it into a 3D modeling program like Blender. While this program is typically used for creating 3D models, it also allows you to do things like measure the volume of your, or in this case, Game Freak's creations. Therefore, as long as we have the proper scaling figured out, we can use Blender's built-in tools to get the exact volume of a Wailord. No estimates required, including the tails and fins. Now, up to this point,
Perfect.
everyone's been using Wailord's Pokedex height to measure his length, which sounds confusing, but this is actually a common quirk amongst the Pokedex. Sometimes it means vertical height, but other times, especially when you're talking about long Pokemon like Wailord, it means length. But just to make sure that we didn't
Yeah.
get the math wrong, I wanted to be extra careful. So I took a look at every depiction of Wailord that we've ever been given, like the size comparison tool from Generation 4, or the player character standing next to Wailord in Sword and Shield. Given that the trainers in the series are usually around 5 foot 4 inches, there's no way that Wailord's 47-foot height in the Pokedex could refer to anything other than his length. So, with that one settled, I was able to make sure that our Blender whale was
They always do confuse it like that, so it's always a coin toss. Coin toss.
scaled correctly. And by creating a
Coin
mesh
flip.
for him, we can use Blender's volume calculator to tell us that Wailord has a volume of 182.8557 cubic meters precisely. No estimates, no assumptions,
Not
that is
bad.
the exact number. From there, all we have to do is divide Wailord's 398 kilograms by his volume to get a definitive density. Drum roll, please. Really? That's the best we got? Gotta admit, I don't know what we gotta do at this
It's
point.
a drum and
I'm
it's rolling.
perturbed by the lack of a solid drum roll, Yossi. Fix it, man. Pull out all the expenses next time. I want a drum roll that will melt minds. Promise? Yossi, I put you in the shaving episode, so you better promise me. Thank you. Where was I?
I
Oh yeah, it's
volunteered.
true density. Wailord's true density is 2.18 kilograms per cubic meter, which means that I can now say without a shadow of a doubt that Wailord is not lighter than air. Even if you don't include
Nope.
Wailord's tail into overall calculation, it still wouldn't be enough to get him airborne. And honestly, all this checks out. Wailord being lighter than air would have broken the other information that the Pokedex tells us about him. Wailord's Pokedex entries going all the way back to Sapphire tell us that Wailord can knock out prey by the shock of its splash, which you know is gonna be pretty hard to do when you're so light you can't even hit the water. So there you have it, my friends.
And
The
nothing.
debate is finally squashed. Wailord is not lighter than air. Reddit was right. Not completely, obviously, but their conclusion was pretty darn
Reddit
close
was
for an
close.
estimate. I guess we'll just have to leave floating off to the sky to Team Rocket.
Team Rocket's blasting off the
And now with that one out of the way, tune in next time when we calculate how the density of Cosmoem would end the known universe. But hey,
now it's already
while the
known.
Pokedex is a great tool for trainers like you to keep track of the heights and weights of every Pokemon, maybe it should also have something to help trainers keep track of the most important thing, their finances.
And now we get into the sponsor of this episode. So that's where we're going to end off today's episode. Thank you all for joining me. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below. And I'll see all you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.